Okay, so we're about ready to begin our expedition, but first I just want to go over my equipment for a bit. So, I'll go over Joshua's in a second. Joshua has the Gladiator headband and the Grail locket. Kevin has the Gladiator belt, because that auto CP up is really nice for having easy access to Grail Sphere, as well as a buzzer. And Chloe has the second buzzer, as well as the Crimson Eye. This is gonna severely hurt her speed, but I basically want to turn Chloe into a complete magical cannon. But anyway, in terms of orbments, I've got solid stuff on Chloe. Do I have like a spare EP Cut 3 that I could give to her? I don't really think so. That's kind of a shame, because that means she's without Death Scream. But she does have some pretty decent arts. She's mainly geared up for clock down and single target arts damage. Kevin has, well, basically most of the best stuff I can get on him, and he has Death Scream. Joshua is pretty much unchanged, except I swapped out his attack 3 for attack 4. And Estelle is geared up more for physical buffing, and just generally also buffing and debuffing with Clock Up EX and Clock Down, as well as physical attacks, because this is going to be a very arts-heavy party, so I made sure that Estelle's a little stronger physically to fill that niche. So, going into these towers, you will want as many buffs and debuffs as possible. La Fort, La Crest, Earth Wall, and Orbital Down in particular is actually very, very useful, so I had that on Kevin here. Also, you might want to, and that's why I left Estelle's inventory empty, you might want to equip some of the, where are they? The elemental talismans here. In particular, the Topaz talisman for this tower. Where we're going, most of the enemies are going to be weak to a particular element. Esmelas is the wind tower, so everything here is going to be weak to earth. And with that, I can fill up your last slot with, honestly, I'm not entirely sure, but we will want protection against seal and mute going forward, so maybe the Eisenriz metal. So with that, let's talk to Faye, who will be operating the cargo lift. Yeah, most of the Zeiss team is here now, basically. This certainly requires their skills the most. So yep, let's descend on the lift. I've always liked this, we're effectively being airdropped into these locations. Yeah, obviously. Yep, there are railings on this thing, thankfully. And you have to be dropped at the bottom of the towers, because airdropping straight into that giant distortion is probably not a good idea. Plus, the airship needs to stay away from that field in case it gets hit by the orbital shutdown phenomenon. No. You don't say! That giant distortion at the top of the tower didn't clue you in? Huh, I thought it would be Niall or Dorothy here. Well, you're being very mysterious. Don't worry, we'll find out pretty much right this instance. And when we do, you'll find out one of the reasons why I love this chapter so much. Well, that wasn't there before. Not to kill the mood here, but this is actually the distortion effect that a bug managed to apply to the doors of the embassies at one point during the localization process. So, yeah. There was also something that I forgot to talk about during Chapter 5, where, they said the Bose Bracer Guild became a gravitational singularity. Basically, the background disappeared entirely at one point. Probably okay. It probably won't scatter you into 1,000 atoms. Actually, 1,000 atoms wouldn't make sense because you'd scatter into way more than that, but anyway. Yeah, is anyone dead? Like, please give us a status report on that. I mean, against Blue Blanc, I'm not entirely sure. He's more specialized in deception and trickery than directly killing people, but still, let's head through this barrier. Welcome to Esmelas Altered Space, the true form of Esmelas Tower. The music here is called, kind of fitting in with what I said, The Hidden True Form, and it is one of my favorite tracks in the game, just because it really just gives you that feeling of, holy, what the crap is this place? Especially this part where it plays like the Trails in the Sky main theme in this really, I wouldn't call it off-key, but this kind of distorted tone. It's just such a really awesome, creepy, otherworldly feeling. But anyway, we have the enemies from the sealed area in the first game, except they're palette swapped. They're all immune to wind and weak to earth, and we have guard minions here and broken pieces. Of course, that's not going to save them from getting hit by Death Scream, because, you know, non-elemental and all that, so let's just go and throw a few Death Screams at them. I would highly recommend fighting everything you can here, because, like I said earlier, Joshua is about the level that you're expected to fight the Enforcers at. Everyone else is pretty far behind. And yeah, a lot of Earth arts, especially Titanic Roar, are going to be pretty useful here. But you saw how much damage Estelle dealt with the Talisman as well, so make sure your physical attacker, if you have one, has that Talisman. You only have one of each Talisman, unfortunately. At least for now. And I'm going to go ahead and fight this thing just because.
Well, that takes care of that.
And here is our first chest of 23 for this area. Now, as is probably obvious, the Altered Space Towers are one-time only dungeons. So you want to make sure you get every single chest here because you're not going to be coming back. I suppose I didn't need that, but I mean, you could have asked first. Believe it or not, this is one of the most mild when it comes to chest of the towers. But anyway, I just love the otherworldly aesthetic of these. It's even among, like, bizarre ancient technological dungeons, of which there are a lot in JRPGs. This one has always felt very unique to me. Keeping a good stock of EP charge items is useful, but you'll also be leveling up quite a lot here. Also, there's a sneaky pathway hidden underneath the upper branch. It's like, geometry like this that would probably work quite well on a 3DS. I do admit there are some games in that system that made very good use of the 3D for perspective. The weight of the chest lid causes it to shear off its old hinges. Awkwardly, you put the lid back on and try to pretend nothing happened. Oh yeah, that feeling when you break something and then have to go, oh, yep, let's just pretend that didn't happen. And, oh, hi there, double axe throwing thing. I think this is some variant of, yeah, the SJ series dude. I believe the J here stands for Jade. So that's kind of cool. I'm actually kind of wrecking this thing with just physical attacks. I don't really need arts. Well, physical attacks besides Kevin's. Yeah, well, I'm glad I was casting there. These things do hit pretty hard if they get an attack on you, just like the ones in FC. Anyway, through there is just one chest. We need to go through here next. I would highly recommend, though, fighting every enemy you can, not just for the reasons that I said before, but also because there are shining palms that can show up here. So, fighting one shining palm here is highly recommended before, I would say, the boss at the top of this tower, but I mean, it's obvious, it's Blue Blunk. We're going to be fighting Blue Blunk soon, so fighting one shining palm before then is good. There's only one other tower that shining palms show up in. Basically, shining palms in this chapter are in the first tower and the last tower, so we won't get another chance at shining palms for a little while if you don't find any here. And the shining palms in this chapter are worth kind of absurd amounts of experience. Okay, we just came up those stairs. Yeah, again, it can sometimes be a little confusing where to go here, but this is actually one of the least confusing of the towers. They get even worse, and some of these chests contain monsters, this one might. No, it didn't. Okay, just a glam choker. You've already looted this chest. You might have forgotten, but don't think you can just come waltzing back and apologize. So, I've said earlier that sometimes the accessories you find in chests are a bit of a hint as to what status ailments the next boss will use. That's one of those, though I already spoiled earlier, that we'll be dealing with Seal and Mute here, so definitely want to equip things that protect against those. I think it's these things, these shield-based ones, that can be shining palms.
Alright, what's next?
Now, thankfully there is no achievement for completing the monster notebook, because if there was, you need to make sure to fight every single monster in these areas, because, again, these are one-time dungeons, so every single enemy here is missable. And now we're at a bit of a crossroads, literally. Okay, this crossroads is pretty simple. We just need to go down here for this chest. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. As you close the empty chest, you weigh the pluses and minuses of staying in there to jump out and scare the next person who checks it. I think I know this thing is from mythology, though. Okay, it's actually the Welsh name for Excalibur, which is kind of interesting. And down here is just another chest. Reviving Balm. Inside the chest, you find a tiny frog. You tap him on the head and he happily jumps away. Cute! That's a pretty nice one, although it does remind me of the Looney Tunes frog. You know, the one Froggy Evening one.
Alright, what's next?
Okay, nice. Chloe gets her EP back. And I should probably start using Sacrifice Arrow a little bit with Kevin. That's another thing that giving Gladiator items to Kevin is really helpful for, because he can give other people CP. Though I still don't entirely like Sacrifice Arrow because it has a tendency to push people out of buff AoE ranges, because it does knock you all back when it hits you. I should mention, always check behind the teleporters because there are often chests there. You can probably tell that's why I'm checking those. Now, at times like these, it can also help to have a walkthrough handy with maps. I might link one in the description because these places can get pretty complicated. Still no shining palms.
Alright, what's next?
On my first time playing this game, and also on my practice run, I found shining palms in like the second encounter I got in this tower.
That's that then. Let's move out.
Kevin's getting pretty close to leveling up. So, there are two pathways to take here. And I know one of them just leads to chests, and the other leads to progress, as is usually the case in dungeons like this. Okay, I think I'll take this path first and go for the other on the way back. Yeah, I did tell you these things hit hard. And there we go, Kevin gets all of his EP back. And not a moment too soon, because we're about to have a monster chest, which means I'm gonna have to heal Joshua. Oh no! Oh yes! Guess who's back? Kind of. Photon Judge J. These things. So, I'm gonna go for Evil Eye here just to see. I'm guessing it's immune to it, but it may not be. Evil Eye inflicts delay in an area, by the way, in case you don't know. Yep, it's immune to delay. And it still has this. But at least it has an elemental weakness this time. So I can go for Titanic Roar if I want to. Huh, that's actually my first time seeing one of these things attack. Because I've just been kind of annihilating everything so far. Estelle, do you have any... You have very, very mediocre AoE healing, but it'll do here. Every little bit helps, I guess. Okay, yeah, that should kill off most of them. And then this should kill off the other one. And now it's just the Photon Judge. But overall, I actually find the Photon Judges not nearly as bad as they were in the first game, but that's mostly because we've got a lot stronger since then, although I am going to have to go ahead and use Sacred Breath here. Sacred Breath is starting to look a little weaker now. But yeah, from here on, it's basically just spamming Earth Lances. Which I don't think Joshua has, so I guess Joshua will just use Soul Blur. And it can still cancel you, but we've got so many people attacking that it won't be able to cancel us all in time. Okay, Joshua has a lot of CP. We're going to be getting CP back soon. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and S-Break. Just because it's pretty easy for Joshua to regain his CP. They are still annoyingly durable. And hit annoyingly hard with that. But yeah, all in all, I just still don't find them as bad as the ones in FC. Although they look kind of funny when you, when you speed up the animations with the turbo button. Okay, I can get Earth Lance in. This should do it, hopefully. Yep, that was enough. At least they don't self-destruct. And in that, we get Taiji Garb. You open the chest and see something you didn't notice the first time around. Without warning, the chest slammed itself shut. You cannot open it again. Yeah, that's another really good one. So, the Taiji Garb is an insanely good piece of male-exclusive armor. So really, it's just a matter of who gets that, Kevin or Joshua. Oh, that does buff defense to a pretty considerable extent, and Joshua's already kind of flimsy, so I may as well give that to Kevin for now. Though I'll probably swap it back to Joshua after I finish this area, because I don't think I'll be using Kevin for the next tower.
Done yet.
And S-Tablet, that restores lowered stats. Which of your party members blocked entrances the best? A gates! Ha 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 ha. And that wasn't Shining Palm, so ignoring you. Now going through here, this might look a little bit weird at first, but it will make sense later. Also, yeah, again, always check behind the teleporters. Emerald Talisman. I once heard on the playground that if you check a certain chest enough, it'll give you all the items and as much mirror as you can hold. Well, unfortunately, the item that it gave us there is not that useful here. Oh, okay, this is actually where we need to go next, so I must have taken the wrong teleporter earlier. This is another reason why I really like this area. Because we have these kind of weird terminals, also Kevin and Estelle saying roughly the same thing, because redundancy can happen when you have multiple potential party members to bring to a section. I love the animations on these things. It's like, they're screen readouts, but they also look a lot like some particular kinds of graves, which is also interesting. Concerning the seal mechanism, 4/1. My name is Celeste D or Sleaze. Now, that is an interesting surname. I am, and the rest of it is mostly redacted. Now, here is something really interesting about these things. The English language is one where you can often infer what a word is just based on seeing the beginning and the end. You can kind of do that here and get a bit of an idea for what this text is actually saying. I am not going to do that, but I'm going to leave this on screen for a little bit. But if any of you want to try pausing the video and seeing if you can read this, then you can go ahead, but I will warn you, maybe put what you read, put any comments on what you read underneath like a white text wall, just in case other people don't want to be spoiled, because this pertains to a lot of lore about exactly what the Aureole is, and it's things that will not actually be fully revealed until the very end of the game. But if you're pretty good, you can actually piece together most of it now, and it's some very fascinating revelations. So yeah, it seems like the royal family is connected to whoever sealed away the Aureole, which kind of makes sense because the first barrier was underneath the castle. So these terminals give us a data crystal each, and while I'm here I may as well go ahead and pick up all of the other ones, because this is basically a big loop that just leads to a bunch of the data crystals. So this is 3 of 4. Yeah, I might speed through these a little quickly. Pause the video if you want to try reading them. But I will just say be warned about spoilers. In particular, the 4th one of these, it reveals some things about the Aureole that you probably don't need to know just yet. Yeah, this one right here. Because, like, I find in this one, the censorship doesn't really do that great a job of hiding what it's really trying to say. I know I'm being a little mysterious now, but, the revelations as to what the Aureole actually is are some of the most downright weird and just very, very unique and interesting in this entire game, and I wouldn't want you to spoil yourselves on these too early. It's some pretty heavy stuff, and it took me quite a long time to wrap my head around. Even on my first playthrough, I didn't fully understand what was going on until I actually did a second playthrough and kind of reread everything and stuff. But anyway, we're actually going to go back here because I missed a path that leads purely to chests. So if we go up from here, we get to another one of these teleporters. Which leads us to a blue teleporter here, which leads us to another teleporter. This is the one that I was actually thinking that we went through the first time. Here I was saying, oh, this place isn't that confusing, and then I get confused. This just leads to 5 chests. Tier all balm. I wish I could tell you this was full of items again, but no, it's empty. A whole bunch of Seepeth, which we'll definitely be needing soon. Anime girl scream. Without my contents, I'm there. Celestial balm. There's nothing in here, but wouldn't it be cool if there were? Well, celestial balm's a pretty decent item, so... Teral balm. In the dust, you can faintly make out the imprint of whatever was in here previously. And, come on, Blue Falcons! Nothing in here but the handprint of whoever took what was inside. Hey, your hand looks familiar. Unless it's Captain Falcon's hand, but yeah, that would destroy the universe. Okay, going back through those teleporters, and let's see what those blue falcons do. They're male only, and they give +5 speed and a lot of other good stats. I'm going to go ahead and give that to Joshua, because speed's kind of one of his biggest assets. But as we get towards the end of this chapter, we'll be getting blue falcons on basically everyone who gets them, and the female equivalent on the female party members. The chests in here do give a very good assortment of items, so make sure you pick them up. Even if you're not going for a full chest run. Okay, so this teleporter here is also going to lead to another one of these short stretches with just one teleporter and then another teleporter. And this one leads down some stairs to another batch of 5 chests, one of which is kind of hidden by that, so make sure you get this one. This is going to be a little hard to notice. My cousin told me about you. You're a monster! Reviving Balm. This chest is empty as you suspected it would be. EP charge. The last time I saw something this empty, I was looking at my calendar. Curio Balm. Breaking news! There's nothing in this chest. More at 11. And Regina Garda. The empty chest opens with a groan. I guess it's tired of being opened over and over. And that would be the female exclusive shoes for this chapter, and yeah, they give quite a lot of stats, although they give -5 evasion, so... not sure I want to give that to Estelle, because I think the Star Rabbits have better movement, but for Chloe, on the other... That's gonna drop her ATS significantly. Actually, I take that back, Estelle's gonna get these. Okay, so here we are back in the data crystal room. Yeah, I hear it say data and data. I'm not sure if that's a regional difference or anything like that. I usually call it data, but that might be an Australian thing. Australian English is really funny because we take some pronunciations from British and some from American. Okay, so we've got all of the data crystals, so we can head up here and not miss this chest. 8 Divination's Garb. This chest is as empty as your soul. Now that, I believe, is... Yeah, it is a bit of a downgrade in ATS compared to the Misty Veil, so Chloe is not getting that. But it is an upgrade in speed. Now, they're being pretty generous with speed boosting items at this point, and there's a good reason for that. The Enforcers are very, very fast, especially on the higher difficulties, so you want as much speed boosting equipment as you possibly can when you're fighting them. Blue Blanc, not so much, he's mostly just a bit of a warm-up, but the other Enforcers, oh boy. And we have a few new enemies that we haven't seen before. Speaking of things we haven't seen before, though, why have we not run into any Shining Poms yet? But here we have an MJ series Doom. And this thing can self-destruct and uses art. Now, are you like the ones in FC that can be affected by Anticept? I guess we'll find out. Let's stand back, though, before we pummel you, otherwise we're gonna take a face full of your explosion. Yep, Anticept works. Okay, that's good. Because if I remember right from FC, these things have a lot of very strong arts. I mean, they're probably not exactly the same as they are in FC, because, yeah, they're probably using SC level art at this point in the game, but they're really not that bad if you mute them.
Nicely done.
Their self-destruct animation still looks pretty cool, though. And still no Shining Poms. Oh, okay. There's only one, though. That could be a bit of an issue. Let's... Yeah, Shadow Spear is probably for the best here. Does Estelle have that? Yeah, she does. I think pretty much everyone here has Shadow Spear. That's basically how things go when you have the high tier... Nice one there. When you have the high tier Time Quartz on everyone. It's like Action 4 benefits pretty much everyone. Physical attackers, magical attackers, everyone needs speed. Anything that gives you more turns in a turn-based game is always beneficial. Wow, that really didn't do much. Let me just flicker you to finish you off. That was only a single Shining Palm though, so I'm not sure how much experience it will be giving us.
Not done yet.
Evidently quite a lot! Yep, that's multiple level ups on Chloe and on Kevin. So that's pretty good. Let me just check what their stats are like now. Yeah, her ATS has already gone up by about 50 compared to how she was when she entered the tower. And a bit more speed. Every little bit helps. And yeah, we got a bit of a preview of this area from below. That is a lot of enemies. It's times like this when you kind of wish there was some kind of a way to attack multiple enemies in the field at once. If this was one of the later games, you'd get like multiple encounter chains here. Chain encounters are a mechanic in Crossbell and in Cold Steel, but not in the Sky games, obviously.
Alright, what's next?
Basically how they work is that if you run into an enemy when there's another enemy nearby, you'll fight both of them in succession, and I thought this would be the end. We're not going through here yet, but we can hit the heal point. And you do get more experience and rewards than normal for doing that. It can be very annoying if you're trying to run from enemies, though, and you get hit by, like, an ambush chain encounter, but, yeah, I know that a certain Crossbell speedrun had a lot of trouble with that. Speaking of ambush encounters, that was close. Estelle nearly lost all of her CP right before the boss. I'm gonna go ahead and heal just to make sure that doesn't happen again. Yeah, we don't even need tier all at this point. That's complete overkill. But these should be the last chests in the tower.
Not bad.
The chests in these towers are usually in pretty obvious locations. You've already taken everything this chest ever had. Have you come back to Gloats? You just need to make sure that you explore every pathway. Noval Blade. Unfortunately, Agate isn't here, so he can't use that. Let me give it to you straight. The chest is empty. Insulating tape? Dang, you really like reading these messages, don't you? Well, of course I do. There were more examples of the localization team having a lot of fun. The chest is empty. Nothing else will appear here. Just what kind of game do you think this is? Well, I mean, I think there are some games where chests regenerate. Actually, off the top of my head, Persona is one of those. So, with that, we should have explored every branch of this place. And we have one of these special, like, cool-looking ancient heal points here. And that there is a very unique-looking teleporter. So, obviously, that is where the boss is. So, before you go through there, because once you do, you'll be leaving this place forever, you want to double check to make sure that you've got all the chests if you're going for the all chests achievement. So I'll be doing that. You also definitely want to save. It's not so important for Blue Blanc, but it's extremely important for some of the later Enforcer fights because they can really screw you over if you're unprepared. I think my levels are pretty fine to take on this fight, so I'll see you next time for our first Enforcer battle.